Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener, your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And yet landscape or plants, gardening in the central highland, Arizona, basically. And we are seeing houseplants. Customers are coming in here, at least here in Prescott at Watters Garden Center. We're having quite a few customers coming in, and they're saying, "I've got these little black gnats. They're flying around. They're attracted to my iPad or the TVs or the windows. And they're just bugging the living daylights out of me. What are they? What do I do?" Well, it's gotten a little chilly. And your houseplants, you might have had them outdoors on the patio, on the deck, on the porch, and you've brought them indoors for winter, or you've just had them indoors to protect them from the cold. Well, there's a little bug called a fungus gnat that is also trying to stay warm. They live in the soil, so they've been outdoors in your containers, in your gardens, in your pots out there, whether it's a houseplant or let's say dahlias or petunias. They've been outdoors and they prefer outdoors, but it's been cold. And so now they're coming indoors, and they're so tiny, they can get into any crevice, any kind of, even a fraction of an opening at a door or a window. They're coming indoors because it's warm. And then they're going, "Okay, I made it. I'm on the cruise ship. I'm inside, just in this tropical environment. I'm going to enjoy this indoor warm environment. Where do I want to camp out?" And so what they do is they start heading to your gardens indoors, your houseplants. And so they live in the soil. So they'll fly in, find a houseplant, kind of nest inside there. It's a fly. So the larva stage is actually a maggot. It's a little white worm that lives and eats the roots of your plant. So the maggot form, it'll live like that for several months. Then the adult stage comes up for just one thing. It only lives for a few days, and it's only up for one reason: lay more eggs around that plant, or to spread to other house plants. So fungus gnats are rather insidious. They're hard to deal with, and if you do a search online how to deal with fungus gnats, you will be dumbfounded. Well, what to do? You won't have a clue what to do. It's so confusing, and all the advice is wrong. It's just wives' tales, or, oh my gosh, I just scratch my head going, how you're confusing gardeners. Why are you doing that to them? Let me help you. You'll see, replace the soil, dig the plant out. It's crazy. Flush with water. None of that works. There's one thing that's going to work. Two things, maybe three things. Okay, let me go into details. So it's a maggot that's living in the soil. We need to break the cycle. You need to kill the maggots. You need to kill the larva stage, the worm stage of fungus gnats that are living in the soil. They tend to congregate. They're very social. They like to hang out together. And so they'll be in one plant, typically in the living room or in that bedroom or in your dining, wherever it is. And so they'll be congregated. And then when they get too many of them, they'll kind of go, "Okay, well, let's go over there." And they'll pick another plant somewhere in that room and kind of spread. So they can actually infect all the house, all the plants in your yard, in your house, and if you're not careful, they can spread and just infect everything. So you kind of want to get on this. Kind of important. One thing you can do that's quick and easy, they make a fungus gnat trap. It's a little tiny square. Maybe it's the size of a postcard. It's got yellow. Typically it's yellow. It's got sticky on it. You put it on like a popsicle stick. You put that on there, and then kind of put it down there and put it in the back side of that plant. And as they come up, fungus gnats are attracted to bright lights or bright things. And that's why they're attracted to your iPads. You know, "Oh, there's a light. I wonder if that's something." But if they come up out of the ground, they're looking to find a mate, and they're going to get stuck to that yellow sticky paper. Go, "Oh, I know I have problems there." What it does is it gets them stuck to that paper right away, so they can't lay more eggs. At least we're trying to break the cycle. We still have another hundreds of larvae, the worms down in the soil. So we got to keep, that's kind of a maintenance thing. To permanently kill them, to get them out of there, we have a product here at the Garden Center called systemic granules. It's a granule, it looks like fertilizer. Basically, you spread it on top of the ground, you water it in, and as it releases and goes through the soil, it vaporizes, kills off all of the maggots. It's good for the houseplants too, because the plants will actually absorb some of the systemic granules, and it prevents mealybugs and aphids and whiteflies, some other things that can get on the top growth. But it really goes to the soil layers where they're eating the roots and obliterates them, just gets rid of them. One application should do it for the year, for the season. So again, it's a good, easy way to get rid of. You don't have to replace any soil. Just sprinkle the granules on the soil, water it in, gets rid of them. The plants will absorb part of it, and it kind of inoculates that houseplant, whether it's a Dracaena, a pothos, a philodendron, whatever it is, ZZ plant. It inoculates them so that keeps the bugs off, keeps the grubs out of the soil, and then off the stems as well. So fungus gnats, if you got little tiny black gnats in the soil, flying around the house, they're living in the soil, and that's where they're coming from. If I were doing it and I've got gnats in a certain area, a certain room in my house, I would do all the plants in that room. They spread pretty easily. So while you're doing it, why not just, it can't hurt. Systemic granules can only help, not hurt. So just do those 3 plants that are in your dining room. Just do them all, water them in, and that the plants will be hardened off. They'll be healthier. The color will come back on those plants. In fact, I would come back in a week and I would fertilize that plant with a houseplant food. That would make a liquid, kind of a mild houseplant food. If it's kind of stressed, you're seeing some spots on the leaves, you're seeing the plants maybe a little droopy, the leaves are a little smaller, I might actually upgrade that from houseplant food to, we have a root and grow. We make our own compost tea here. So we literally boil some compost. We come up with this molasses looking kind of plant food. It's liquid form. So you add a tablespoon to a gallon of water, give it to your houseplants, and they will just love you. What that will do is it'll cause the plant to kind of increase roots, get a deeper color to the foliage. It'll help new growth. So help things recover. If you don't see a lot of stress, just your regular old houseplant food, that would be fine. The root and grow is kind of that compost tea. We created this for, I just transplanted just repotted my houseplant. It's going to help it get through the stress, help it root out. If I put a new tree out in the yard, it's going to help it root out and get stressed, get established, and kind of take off. We really made it for transplant shock, but that root and grow, it's the best houseplant food you ever find. It's a tremendous cactus and succulent food. Oh my God, it's the best ever. I know they make other things that are labeled cactus food, but this one really works. But those 2 things, systemic granules to get rid of the problem, then wait a few days, let it do its work, then come maybe the next time you're going to water that plant in 10, 14 days, then add that houseplant food or root and grow, and you will recover. Your fungus problems will be gone, and then your houseplants will be so happy. You'll probably find some of your blooming plants, your African violets, your lipstick plant, goldfish plants, they might even start blooming, because that pressure, when their roots are being eaten, they don't like that. And we're at the beginning of the growing season for these plants. They just came in. Fungus gnats, just these problem insects came inside because it was warm. And so it's just going to get worse as we go further in. We're not even at winter yet. So as we get into winter, it can get out of hand if you're not careful. So fungus gnats, little tiny gnats, they live in a maggot stage. Their larva stage is a maggot in the soil. They physically eat the roots of your plants. That's their sustainability. And then they come up to do one thing, spread and lay more eggs and keep that thing going. And you don't want any of that in your house. Okay, we got a lot in store for you. I got Lisa Watersland coming in with your garden questions. I sense there's a lot going on here. But first, we're going to take a break. pay a few bills. Be right back after this.
Grow extraordinary succulents and cactus indoors.
Water succulents are easy with lots of shapes, sizes, and colors.
Whether you're looking for a small cactus for an office desk or a huge statement succulent in your living room, we have the perfect plant.
So what are you waiting for?
Visit Watters Garden Center in Prescott today or wattersgardencenter.com to find the perfect succulent for your home and office.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Watters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
And back with Lisa Waters Lane. She's in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are people asking, talking about out in the gardens, in your neighborhoods? And if we can share that, maybe gain some insight, some knowledge, that's what this segment's all about. So welcome back, Lisa.
Thank you.
My favorite gal. You're enjoying those. We're going off, I guess, to enjoy those grandkids, Thanksgiving, the holidays, the turkeys, the hams, the yams, the broccoli casserole at the Waters house. There's an old family recipe that just every gathering is board games
It's required.
Loud board games and broccoli casserole.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I haven't seen some of the grands in quite a while, so this will be fun to get to go see them.
So what do your grandkids call you?
They call me Yaya.
Yaya. And why do they call you Yaya? Is that a family name or?
Well, all the good ones were taken. So my mom is Nana, your stepmom was Mimi, and then there was Mama. And it's like, what's left? There was kind of Opa, which is German, which could have worked.
Yeah.
Or Oma. And maybe it's Oma. And then
that shows you how German we are. None. It's that Irish gene coming through.
Yeah. So we just kind of went with Yaya. It's more Greek.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not saying it correctly. I'm sure if a Greek person
all
would
of our
hear
Greek friends, we apologize. But we adopted the name for us, and that's how it goes.
I know.
It's Greek with an Irish twist.
If I could go back, I would go Gigi.
Oh.
But I can't go back. I mean, our oldest grandchild's 12. There's no going back at this point. So Yaya works. They all use it.
You know what I find? It's easy for very young first vocabularies. Yaya is so easy for kids to get. It's like it just kind of
Papa, Mama, Yaya.
Just kind of comes.
And then they call me the great and powerful Yah.
Great Yah. Yeah. We won't go down that path or that probably isn't as good over the airwaves as
probably not. But I like it.
So the holidays are great with the Lanes and Loud kind of go together. We love getting together. We love each other. We love hanging out with each other and not just on our cell phones. We actually like playing games and swimming and activity and ice skating and going hiking around. And we love being with each other and being loud.
Yes, it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Garden questions. Do we have anything going on that's super interesting and challenging? That'd be great.
Well, I do. Okay, here's a challenging one for you. These are always this nature is weird kind of things. Lauren lives out in Chino. They have 3 Deodar cedars that they've had in the ground just over 2 years. Yeah. 2 look fabulous. They're beautiful. Yeah. One of them, half of this one side of the tree is browning out.
Gotcha.
Needles are crispy. They're falling off.
Yeah.
The other half, if you looked at it from one side, it's beautiful.
Hopefully it's a side you get from the side patio or from the back deck or whatever.
Right. But wants to know, what do you think's causing that?
Yeah.
Is there any hope for it?
Yeah.
Coming back from
That's
that.
Good. So you'll find plants often are stress on one side. This is not just Deodar cedar. It's just plants in general. Stress on one side, healthy on the other. That is directly a root issue. So something's going on in the soil that's causing that to happen. And the roots on that side can't feed that side of the plant as well as the other side that looks so good. Mm-hmm. So what causes that? Well, bugs, for one, grubs, Gophers, so pocket gophers can eat some roots on it. Anything that's affecting eating, structurally changing the roots of that plant where it can't feed that part of the plant as well can cause it. So number one thing I'd look at is grubs. Yeah. There's a little white worm that gets in there, and you dig a test hole around the side. You see if you see one little white worm, that's it. Come in right away before it kills the plant or spreads to your others and get some grub killer. Very easy to control. You sprinkle it on, water it in, your problems are all gone. The plants will come out next spring and thrive. Okay, if it's not that, gophers, if you see mounds of dirt around the root ball, this is an underground rat called a pocket gopher that eats the roots of your plants. So they're not good. They deserve to die. Get rid of them. Trap them, bait them, smoke them. Otherwise, destroy them. Don't let them or their heirs come anywhere close to your deodar cedars. That's a problem. When you're treating your plants, don't just treat the one. These things can easily spread down the line. So you want to treat all three of your deodar cedars, not just one. Lauren, please come talk to us. Then what do we get into? We get into the weird. As you said, nature is weird. Could be a soil. Something's going on with the soil. It doesn't perk as well. There's a rock shelf there. The contractor buried some trash that's some concrete or something that's leaching out some alkalinity. Something funky is going on underneath the ground that's affecting that side of the roots that are not allowing the roots to grow and thrive like they were. Okay, what do? No matter what you do, here's two things you want to do right away. One, humic acid, Humic, humic. It's a granular product. It looks like mocha. It looks like coffee grounds. You sprinkle it underneath the roots, and it helps feed the roots so the plants want to root more into the surrounding soil. That's going to help you. They're still rooting now through the end of the year, and it's going to set the stage for new root growth. They'll start rooting again sometime in March, into February, March. And so encourage more roots. Humic helps with that. And then fertilize. You're going to need to fertilize, use all-purpose plant food. We make a specific organic just for evergreens. It'll thrive with that. So all-purpose plant food is a granular or organic food. It's got cottonseed meals and bird guano. It's going to help it elongate, grow new growth next spring. So you're putting the food on now and again in March. In fact, I do both, humic and all-purpose food now and in March. And then pray for it, nurture it, play it Mozart, do all that gardener stuff we do to help it grow for next spring's growth. And my guess is if you do if you're engaged, you're out there, you're looking at it, it's stressed, and you're looking at those plants, they're going to recover and be just fine. Is it going to be kind of weird for a season or two as it tries to regrow and calibrate for this a tree? Yeah, it might be a year or two, but I think if you set the stage right now for next spring's growth, you can easily recover pretty quick. But something's stressing out that plant at the root level. You're seeing it. Start with grubs. Start with pocket gophers out in Chino Valley. It's like gopher heaven out there. Don't let them eat your roots. Come in and we can show you how to get rid of them, and then go to baiting. No matter what, humic and food will help it kind of recover next spring.
Okay.
There you go.
So Rob has a question. He's considering putting in using a living tree this year for Christmas.
Yeah, good idea.
He wants to know what are the key points he needs to keep in mind as he considers a living tree.
Well, first of all, get a living tree that looks like a Christmas tree, because you're going to use it for the holidays. You said holiday, that's fine. Yeah. And get one that's for here. So you're going to see holiday plants everywhere spewed out, especially the mass merchants. Man, they're going to get a Phoenix tree up here, greenhouse grown tree, one that's only meant to be for a house plant. I'm assuming this is going out in the yard. So get spruce, junipers, cypress, cedars, firs. Come talk to us. Get the right variety that's hardened off, that's acclimated for here. Use it the way you want. We say keep it outdoors until a week prior. If you're going to use it as a physical tree, put presents under it indoors. Don't keep it indoors too long. These are outdoor plants. So keep it in for about a week and bring it back outdoors and then plant it after Christmas. So January, whatever, it will be fine. And then plant it You go ahead and dig the hole twice as wide, same depth. We got a planting guide that gets some mulch. You're going to water it a couple times a month, do all that kind of stuff, and then it will live for decades and decades. It'll outlive you and I easily out into the future. But spruce, Colorado spruce is #1 seller because it looks like a Christmas tree. Actually, spruce is #1 most popular house or holiday plant. Alberta spruce is a cuter, smaller one. It's #1 seller, mainly because spring is just like we can't keep them in stock for container plants as a foundation kind of plant. But they'll do great now too, tabletops, that kind of stuff. So come see us. We can show you how. We got a handout on how to do it.
Has a few more
kind of
hints
stuff.
on it too.
Yeah, we can give you an insider tip. We got families that have dozens. They've been doing this for years with success, and you can too. Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back right after this. For luxurious evergreens in the yard, look no further than Watters.
We have a luscious selection of evergreens that look their best in winter, so you can enjoy a beautiful landscape no matter the cold.
Locally grown for stunning appearance and ability to thrive in cold weather.
Perfect for that touch of luxury your neighbors are sure to be jealous of.
Luxurious evergreens at Watters Garden Center in Prescott and wattersgardencenter.com.
Your one-stop shop for evergreens. Visit us today.
If you enjoy this show and would like to hear more, please subscribe to The Mountain Gardener wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you'd like even more garden tips, tricks, and helpful advice, please check out my website at wattersgardencenter.com for classes, videos, and more, or my online garden center at top10plants.com. Throughout the week, Lisa and I can be found here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Ken Lane, aka the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Watters Garden Center. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain gardens. You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at wattersgardencenterer.com. That's Watters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
And it is time. You've got not time. In the next 2-3 weeks, by the end of the year, you need to really think through your irrigation, your well house, where water is. As water freezes, it expands and breaks things up. And so you want to protect at least the most valuable pieces of your irrigation. So it starts with the irrigation valves. Now in the ground, typically in the ground, you'll see a box with a lid on it. And inside that box, you'll see 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 valves that run your irrigation. Like I've got 8 valves. Most irrigation has 2 to 4 valves. And so your clock, wherever that irrigation clock is typically where it's comfortable, in the garage, side of the building. There's a wire that goes from that computer irrigation clock down to those valves. And that computer runs or turns on and off the 12-volt signal, those valves, opens up the solenoid or closes it. And so if you freeze one of those valves in the ground, you have to replace them all. It's very expensive. You got to dig it up, make a brand new manifold is what they call it, that manifold, the different valves. And so you don't want those to freeze. Now, they're in the ground. The reason they're in the ground is because they're protected. And so mostly, and this is broadcast all over Arizona, a lot of different elevations, but here in the Central Highlands, typically the code is 18 inches. You need to have water and sewer pipes 18 inches because that's below the frost line. So look where your frost line is, and you want to have those valves. The ground just is not going to freeze solid, not going to turn to ice that deep. So we get a little bit of a frost line here in Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, these areas. I would say Sedona, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, you're all the same. We're all very similar. And so there's not a real frost line. If we do freeze, the ground gets a little chunky or icy. We usually pick through it and keep on going. So we don't deal with a lot. Now, you folks in Williams, Flagstaff, White Mountains, Durango, the higher elevations. Okay, yeah, it can be a little bit deeper. And so just don't let those valves freeze. Once the ground freezes down to the valve level, it'll freeze and it'll break open the water inside that valve will expand and break open the valves. Now, you folks in Flagstaff, those areas, you're actually blowing those lines out. So you're making sure no water's in there. I never do that with mine because that's a pain in the derriere. It's just, I want to be able to use my irrigation through winter. So I keep them activated. What I do a little trick. So what's the best insulator you could possibly have? It beats even that pink insulative cotton candy stuff that's in your house. Dirt, soil. So I'll get a bag of potting soil, a bag of manure, a bag of mulch, something I'm going to use next spring. I take those home. I'm taking them home right now. And I'm going to lay it down on top of my irrigation box. And I've never had a valve freeze, never had an issue ever. And I've gone through 2 at least sub-zero, maybe 3 sub-zero winters. They still didn't freeze. And so that's an easy trick. Use a bag of something you're going to use next. If you've got containers, you're going to need more potting soil. You need to freshen up those pots anyway. Just get a bag. And usually I'll lay it down with my logo face down because we're dealing with tan colored bags. We're trying to go earth tone, farmer's market, almanac kind of stuff. Brown. I'll face down and it kind of disappears. You don't even see it. So I do that for all of my irrigation valves. That's an easy trick. That works really well for your well house. I'll line my well house with bags. I don't want cold going underneath it. So I've got a bit raised or whatever. Just kind of insulate things with dirt. Watch your well house. If you're on a well, you've got that pump, usually a pressure valve, a pressure tank of some sort, and a booster. Depends on your layout. But this is a good time to activate those heat tape. They make a tape that's thermostatically controlled. When air in that well house gets close to, I think it's 38 degrees, it activates. So it just warms up lightly those pipes. You wrap it around your pipes and it doesn't freeze. If your pump goes out, I've got a 1-horse pump in my well house. That thing freezes. It's $1,000 bill. I don't know what the part is. It just costs a lot of money. I don't want it to break. I put heat tape inside on those pipes, and they make a thermostatically controlled outlet. So I'll plug in a heat lamp into that. So when it gets down to 38, it activates the heat tape and turns on the heat lamp. And I've never had a problem with all those pipes inside that well house from freezing. It keeps it from above freezing level. So kind of watch that. The most expensive part in your entire irrigation is the backflow preventer. Some of you have a big green bag that's right before it gets to your irrigation valve, that box that's in the ground. There's a big piece of hardware. It's usually made of brass or copper. And so you don't let that freeze. It's a very expensive part. It freezes easily. That's why they put that insulated bag on it. That's one you want to drain it or put heat tape or something on there to keep that part from freezing if we get really cold. You got some time. We're not that cold now. You got to have permeated cold, long, extensive bouts with cold before things start to freeze. But just by the end of the year, protect your irrigation and your well house. Be right back after this.
Your yard will turn heads with stunning evergreen shrubs from Watters Garden Center.
Watters grows greener shrubs for year-round interest, as well as blooming shrubs for pops of color in spring.
Attract birds with a tall privacy hedge and the berries that follow.
Plus, winter evergreens are easier to grow than other plants.
No matter your landscape, we have the perfect shrubs for a greener winter.
Visit Watters Garden Center in Prescott or online at wattersgardencenter.com.
We believe in roses that smell like a rose at Watters Garden Center. The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations, guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season. You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few of Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. We give this entire segment, I'd give the whole show to you. I'd love to share this little booth with you, my favorite gal, for the entire hour if I could. But we give her this segment specifically so I could rope her into coming in and
I don't
sharing.
have enough words to do the whole.
Can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes. I
Not
like
for
talking.
you.
My mom gave me a Mr. Microphone when I was a kid, and I've liked one ever since.
That is
and
true.
The more people that are tuned in, the bigger the audience, the more power. It's a sickness, actually. Most people, their number one fear of is death. But what trumps that is even, I can't say Trump anymore. What's even more frightful is speaking in front of audiences or people. Mm-hmm. No, I like that.
You are a great speaker, and
you
love words and you love to use words.
I like to play with.
Whether
I study
you're writing,
words.
whether you're speaking.
As a kid, I really liked encyclopedias. We had that Britannica. They bought us one of those, and I would just go through, sit down the hallway, which where it was, turn the light on, and just thumb through it and learn stuff. And then I really, really liked dictionaries.
Oh yeah.
I love thesaurus if you really get into it. But what does a word mean? Where does it come from? How to use it? I still get an app that tells me a word a day, which is a freaky new word. And where it came from is from the Middle Ages, from 1642. It came from the French, Latin, or Greek, whatever.
It's crazy.
I like studying that.
I do too.
And how to use them.
I've always liked dictionaries and encyclopedias, but I guess kids nowadays, they just do it on their phone.
Yeah.
They don't have it.
Now they got apps. They go, I want to learn German. It goes, okay, here's a word in German today. Do this.
There you go.
It's actually easier today than ever before, but you don't get that feel of that heavy encyclopedia pictures.
Plus, I think we just got, we had 3 channels, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and you just didn't have all the other sources coming at you that kids today have. Yeah. So you could spend 30 minutes, an hour on the floor with a dictionary.
I heard a stat today, I think on NPR or something, that said the average child, I think Gen Z or Y or whatever they are today, whatever the under,
we're out of
teenage alphabet. And they've been tucked in, they've been plugged in so much. They've never gone without technology. On average, they spend over 6 hours a day on screen time. That could be a phone, could be a TV, could be a
computer,
an iPad or whatever. But 6 hours, is that a long time or is it not? I don't know. Seems like a long time.
I don't think we even did that on a Saturday morning when we could watch all the cartoons.
Your brain will rot if you sit there, and you'll lose you'll need glasses if you watch a TV too long. There's some things that's not true.
Days.
Oh my gosh, what our parents did to us.
They did. But we have to can't be Luddites. Times are a-changing.
Right.
And the only thing we can do is help our kids adjust to that.
You know what I think we should do?
Garden more?
We should all garden more. That's right.
Ken's answered everything.
That's right.
Garden more, which isn't bad. Oh, that's great. Get your kids out there and have them, your grandkids, your kids.
You want to connect with the next generation? Garden with them. They are into it. And go archaeology, rocks, looking for lizards. Just that's all the being outdoors. Yeah, it's great.
I agree. So speaking of being outdoors, as I've said before, I walk the neighborhoods a lot. So I'm out seeing a lot of people's houses, and I'm just seeing something. Our neighborhood is maybe 25 years old.
It's developed. There's no more infield kind of homes. It's all built out.
And some of the homes have been there, I'd probably say 25, maybe 30 years.
Yeah, ours is a 2002 is when ours was built, something like that. So 2000s and on.
Right. But some of these homes have never changed their landscaping in the whole time that they've been there. And I think it is so worthwhile to take a fresh look at your house and go, man, nobody uses railroad timbers anymore. Don't use those. Get them out of your yard.
You can't use them. They don't make them anymore. Get rid of them and replace them with block or something.
Because by now, most of them are falling apart. They look dated. They look bad. They make your house look dated.
Yeah.
There's some things like that you just kind of go, just take care of that. The other thing I see a lot of is a tree that's just either ugly. Yeah. It is ugly. There's nothing you're going to do to make this tree pretty. and it's just sitting there in the yard. It's either half dead or it's just kind of really struggled. It's just not a beautiful tree.
A chainsaw for Christmas. That's going to be your friend.
And I think some of it, it's that whole we don't see it because we see it every day. That's why I think sometimes it's taking a fresh look at your house or standing out front and taking a picture and then looking at the picture of it can show you a lot. But I see a lot of really.
Or just talk to Lisa. She's walking the dogs in front of your house. No,
I'll be happy.
We're not talking about our neighbors. No. Just our neighborhood.
I'll be happy to tell you what to do here. But just get rid of those really ugly dead trees. They don't need to be there. They don't bring anything to the yard. They're just bleh.
One thing gets me is old overgrown roses. They're way too big, gnarly, big old, and then way overgrown Russian sage. Yeah. This big purpley thing. It becomes a weed after a while. They need to be replaced every 17 years or so. You need to remodel more often.
You know what else I see a lot of is like ground covered junipers. Yeah. That have half of it's died off, or it's just overgrown. Really, nobody's paid attention to it for 10 years. Yeah. Watered or fertilized it, and you just look at it and go, ooh, do something with that.
A friend of mine at Rotary or someplace this week, a friend of mine, I forget where, this really close friend, said, oh, my junipers are too large. I want to cut them. I want to get them back to size. If they were in front of their house, they're now blocking the front entrance. They were maybe chest high. They want them down to hip high or a little lower. Can I do that? And I went, I don't think so, but because once you cut them back that much, they get real woody and twiggy, and you can see the inside, and they just look butchered. Yeah. And juniper, they don't recover at that point. No, really, you need to start over and put a new set, get another 20 years. I think they said they've been in for 20 years. Yeah. Anyway,
definitely time to start over sometimes. The other thing I see a lot of, especially right now, is just weeds still in the yard. I mean, now is a great time to take care of them, whether you yank them out, just get them under control. Also put in some weed and grass stopper. Yeah. Get that down so that prevents the seeds from germinating. You don't get all that seed growing up. I get it. It's exhausting to get out there in your yard sometime, or you just don't have time. But if you can do things that are preventative, like the weed and grass stopper, that stuff is amazing. If you use it correctly and properly, I mean, we rarely pull weeds out of our yard.
Because we're putting it down before the weeds come up. So you're putting down weed and grass stopper. I mean, I will pay almost any amount for product if it prevents me from having to work out there. I don't have to hire someone to do it for me. I can do it myself. And weed and grass stopper is one of those. It's granular. You spread it out there, and it will get rid of foxtail and dandelion. Those are the two big winter weeds. They are starting to come up, or they will be up the next snow or rain event. You're going to have those two weeds because they love the winter. Yeah. And so they're nasty weeds that you can't just spray now. Now you have to physically pull them to get them out because it's winter. Sprays don't work. Right. And so in the summer, that you put it down again right at the rains, it'll keep tumbleweed and horehound and goat head. It's a nasty one. Keep them from coming up. You just won't have weeds.
Yeah, save yourself a ton of work, and it just makes your yard look so much nicer. Makes your neighbors happier. We all want that.
I don't know about that.
It does, because they're not looking at the weeds.
If we're your neighbors, makes us happier. Yes,
our neighbors are very good.
We got great neighbors.
The other thing I see a lot of, which really dates a yard, is the whiskey barrels. Remember when whiskey barrels, the wood barrels were still huge? Popular, huh? My goodness, there are some beautiful ceramic pots that you can put in. They take the winters, and they take 10 years off your home. Yeah. And they're just so pretty and colorful out there. I highly recommend doing that. The other thing is ugly garden art.
Okay, now we're getting subjective. Here we go.
I mean, some people, they put a banner out 10 years ago, and it's still there. Yes. It's all faded. Half of it's blown away. Or they put out some cute little squirrel out there, and now that squirrel has no face because it's all
melting in there with age. Another one is silk flowers are turning blue. That's
a definite indication.
That brings your house down, and it describes your taste. You got to be careful with that one. So,
are you talking about me?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so it's okay
now
to
remodel. That we've offended everybody.
Yeah, so it's okay to remodel. I think we need to remodel more often our landscapes to get rid of. You got $1 million house now,
Right.
and you got this ugly looking tree. It's time to redo it.
Yeah.
Ken and Lisa Lane, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.
Your yard will turn heads with stunning evergreen shrubs from Watters Garden Center.
Watters grows greener shrubs for year-round interest, as well as blooming shrubs for pops of color in spring.
Attract birds with a tall privacy hedge and the berries that follow.
Plus, winter evergreens are easier to grow than other plants.
No matter your landscape, we have the perfect shrubs for a greener winter.
Visit Watters Garden Center in Prescott or online at wattersgardencenter.com.
We believe your garden should be natural, safe, and organic. At Watters Garden Center,
If you enjoy this show and would like to hear more, please subscribe to The Mountain Gardener wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you'd like even more garden tips, tricks, and helpful advice, please check out my website at wattersgardencenter.com for classes, videos, and more, or my online garden center at top10plants.com. Throughout the week, Lisa and I can be found here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So there are a few tips as we wrap up this year's garden season. Kind of in strong. Some of the insider tips I've given to you. I mentioned a couple of things earlier in the show as far as houseplants, like fungus gnats, how to get things to bloom, keep them going. But if you've got a lawn, here at this elevation, we're so mild that you can keep a lawn pretty much green right through winter, especially newer lawns. You can get an older lawn to stay green longer, but it's amazing how long. So one thing I would do right away is lower the blade so more sun can get into that garden, into the blades of the grass. It really helps. So maybe 1.5, 2-inch blade height to the lawn, and it will keep it greener longer. And I would say fertilize it. Fertilize it with all-purpose plant food. The bird guano in that is magic. It greens things up better than anything else. It'll keep it green longer. You can tell folks that fertilize their grass, their lawns, kind of in the fall of the season, this time of year, because it kept it green longer. Otherwise, it tend to go yellow and brown sooner for you. So, and then as we get frosty, it's a bit early yet, but as we get into closer to the new year, you'll get some frost layer. Don't walk on grass while it's frosted. The blades are actually frozen. When you walk in, it'll break the blade. So you get this brown hue to it. Just kind of some inside personal experience. My name's Ken. We're just friends. We're talking over the back fence, and this is kind of some things I've kind of shouldn't have done, but I did, and I don't want you to do. So kind of watch that one. Your fallen leaves. Don't let leaves stay for very long. A few days is fine, but don't let it stay on top of your lawn, your borders, your raspberry brambles, your ponds. Don't let it stay on there because they tend to compost right there on the lawn, and they can damage the foliage underneath. Yes, they'll come back, but you want it to stay green. You want it to stay healthy. And then also leaves as they drop, they tend to harbor disease. So that powdery mildew they got on the roses, well, it will hibernate underneath those leaves. Don't let that happen. Expose that soil, rake those leaves out, compost them over there in a compost pile where they should be. Don't let them compost on your flower beds, on your roses, on your lawn, your thyme lawn, your herbs. Don't let them do that. It'll just keep them healthier, keep them looking cleaner, neater, just kind of some things that happen. Your containers, if you've got pots, what I find is just personal experience again. I find that I tend to overwater my container gardens. So whether it's a beautiful nandina or holly or a pot full of pansies, you can continue growing. It's good for that, but I tend to overwater things. And so what I do is this time of year, I raise up my pots with some pot feet. They make a real decorative little kind of riser, maybe a 1-inch riser, and it just gets it up off the ground where it allows the plant to drain faster. It keeps me, just some things I found really help. They're pretty, they're very inexpensive, and they really make a difference for your fall and winter gardens. Now, in the summer, I don't care. It's hard to overwater plants in the summer. It's so hot. So I'll take them back off. So just kind of some things. Look at pot feet for your container gardens. Also, I find I don't do very well with plastic containers this time of year. Again, I tend to overwater. I prefer glazed or clay pots, or wood pots are much better. I'm using glazed, but it's harder to overwater things in a clay or a wood pot. Just again, just school of hard knocks. If you're going to move a tree or a shrub, this is your time. As soon as they go dormant, let's say it's in the wrong place. I planted it out there. It's been a year. I can see it's growing too fast. It's going to invade the driveway. I won't be able to pull the truck in to the garage if it stays here. As soon as it goes dormant, or as soon as you see that last leaf drop, that's your cue. Now it's time to move it. And so you're at much less risk of transplant shock if you wait until that plant is dormant. Also, there's less bugs out there. There's less problems. If you're going to plant a new plant, I would go as far as to say, now's the time to dig the hole or to get that garden flower bed ready, turn the soil, get it in there, get it rototilled now, because it's going to expose all the weed seeds. It's going to expose the insect eggs, expose that new garden area you're going to plant in into February or March. Expose it now to the winter cold, because you'll have less issues down the road. So you're trying to expose that garden to the colds. It kills off those mildew spores, disease, insects. Usually I'll turn it and I'll add my layer of manure or mulch or compost on top of that. And I'll just let it set. I'll let it percolate. I'll let it just be exposed to the cold. So I'm going to be ready to plant it. It's full on spring. It's full planting season by March. And maybe the end of, depends on your elevation. I would say the end of February, for you folks over on the other side of Mingus, the Cottonwoods, Camp Verdes, Sedonas, you're full on spring. Daffodils are in bloom. Forsythia are blooming right after Valentine's. So you kind of get things ready, and this is your time to do that. So let's see. If you've got winter vegetables, especially the tall ones, I just Brussels sprouts. This is a big plant. If you're growing Brussels sprouts, it grows better this time of year, but they can get kind of tall. You might want to stake them. They tend to fall over in the wind. The leaves have dropped. The trees were naturally protecting some of your gardens from the wind. Well, now they're exposed. So you might have to do a little bit of maintenance on things, kind of get them staked up, keep them from falling over. As soon as the plants are dormant, you can go ahead and prune your fruit trees, apples, pears, cherries, apricots, nectarines, your grapes, your berries, raspberries especially. You can prune all that stuff, currants, your gooseberries, those old-fashioned, some of those shrubs. I won't say how to prune them. That's not for this show, and it's hard to do on the airwaves. But time. It's time to prune all those things back. I think you can leave in the ground without any problems your root crops like turnips, beets, parsnip, Swiss chard, celery, Brussels sprouts, your beetroots, all those things. Potatoes, I leave them in the ground. I don't harvest them all at once. I don't need that many potatoes. There's dozens and dozens. I just can't deal with them all. I'll get one plant. I'll leave the other one there, and I'll harvest that. Really, as long as that soil doesn't freeze, you're good. They'll store right there in the ground and be fresher, crisper, better taste. My mouth's watering just thinking about them. Oh my gosh. I love turnips. I'm a Southern boy. My mother, I'd come home from school and you'd smell turnips just cooking in the kitchen for dinner. My mouth, I still love that. I love going to Cracker Barrel and having fried okra, turnips. It's just good stuff. I don't know. I think it's time to, if you're into the creative artistic stuff, the espalier, let's say fruit trees or twisted. I sold some braided fruit trees this spring. I'll have some more next spring, but now's the time to clean up the suckers, clean up the trunk so you can see that beautiful braid It's time to clean that up. I would say your topiaried things, spiraled, pom-pommed, those kinds of artistic plants, you can go ahead and trim those things back now. So it's time. As soon as things go dormant, it's time to think about pruning. Now, the pruning window is very large. So you've got from the time they go dormant through March. So it's a big window. It's basically all of winter. You can go ahead and do that. So don't feel rushed. You don't have to get it all done by Christmas. No, enjoy the eggnog. Enjoy the family, the company, the neighbors, the friends that come over. Enjoy. And in between, when you've had too much eggnog and you just need to be outdoors and do some exercise, go ahead. You've got time to do that. So I would say too, bird feeders. There's a tricky thing about hummingbird feeders. So hummingbirds, the young ones that are stupid, they didn't go south. They should have. And the old ones, they're just too tired. They're still at that hummingbird feeder. I'd say keep that up until you don't see bird activity again. They're using you as a way to get through. They might just be migrating and they're tired for a bit. They're going to use your hummingbird feeder and then head south again. But don't let that hummingbird feeder freeze, but you might have to bring it in the evening in the garage or whatever, then take it back out. But as you see bird activity, that's a reason you see that. The young and the old, they just get tired. They can't make it like they used to. Help them out. Anyway, those are some of your insider tips for the end of the year. There's more of that to come right after this.
Autumn is the most beautiful time of the year in the mountains, and Watters Garden Center has the brightest trees.
We've collected 700 hardy trees, including maple, aspen, ash, and oak.
Each is ready to plant, so you can enjoy brilliant fall foliage in your yard.
Shop online at top10trees.com or visit us in Prescott.
Trees are brighter at Watters Garden Center in Prescott and online at top10trees.com.
We believe small business can win against impersonal box stores at Watters Garden Center. If you enjoy this show and would like to hear more, please subscribe to The Mountain Gardener wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you'd like even more garden tips, tricks, and helpful advice, please check out my website at wattersgardencenter.com for classes, videos, and more, or my online garden center at top10plants.com. Throughout the week, Lisa and I can be found here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've tuned in to The Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So we live in a zone, a garden zone. So we go 1 through 10, basically. The higher the number, the less cold a plant can have. The lower the number, the more antifreeze that plant has, the colder it can be. So this Central Highlands area, my gardens are a zone 7. I'm in Prescott, Arizona at 5,400 feet, 7. So I can grow zone 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 7 means plants can go down to 10 degrees before they get damaged. I hardly ever see that. A zone 6 is basically go to 0. 5 and go below 0. So it gets colder and colder. So if you're in a zone 7, you can grow those plants plus all the colder ones because they're never going to see that kind of cold. If you go above that, so I flirt with a few zone 8 plants. These are plants that need to go down to 15 degrees or so. So, okay, I do see 15 degrees sometimes. So I grow some barrel cactus, so a palm tree, zone 8, an olive tree, a dwarf olive. It's beautiful. It's in a container. What I do is I'm taking those, I'm bringing them undercover under my front patio, front door, and I move the plant so it doesn't get frost directly on them, and it touches the house. So it's amazing how much heat your house throws off. And I've done that for years and years, and those plants come through like a champ. No problem. Zone 8. If I were to keep them just out there, out in the garden, if I were to plant them in the yard, I might have to do more work. I might have to cover them, put burlap on them, especially if barrel cactus, not any kind of cactus. Prickly pear, you can't kill prickly pear. Choyas or jumping cactus or teddy bear cactus, you can't kill those. They're fine on their own. They're a zone 5 plant, but it's a cactus. It's those borderline plants I would say you might have to protect those. But until then, until you see super tremendous cold, don't worry about it. I would say most plants in the yard, if you put the right plant, you have the right zone in the sun, you're fine. Don't cover them, don't protect them. You do not, a rose plant should not need to be covered here in this Central Highlands part of Arizona. Maybe up in the mountains, you might have to, but even then, I would say mulch. Put some straw or mulch over top of the heart of that plant. You're still fine. Don't cover it with burlap. It's too much work. You don't need to do that. And so I see most folks do too much work and they just don't need to work that hard. You're okay. The best thing you can do is keep your plants hydrated. So a hydrated plant, especially if you hear the weatherman going, it's going to be a cold one. It's coming from the north. Oh my gosh. And people head to the grocery store and they empty the shelves because they think you're going to be buried alive. They think you're in Alaska or something. In reality, we're inside baking cookies for a couple of days. We're right back at it because it all melted away. If you see that, go ahead and water your plants. Take a hose out. A hydrated plant goes through the cold better than a dry plant. Those are some insider tips that could really help. Again, that antifreeze is in the structure of that plant, but if it gets dry, it can't move it around. So we have what we call tip burn or winter kill. The tips of the plant will actually burn off. If you kept it hydrated, that wouldn't happen. Super important for your hedges, that kind of thing, your red tip botania. And maybe that would be good for roses or the borderline plants. So if I see a real bitter cold, I'll go out and hand water my containers. My brand new plants. I just put them in the ground last summer or fall. I'll hydrate those because it keeps them going much easier. That's some insider tips that'll help you with your gardens this winter as we go through. Ken and Lisa Lane, we are here at Watters Garden Center. I got to tell you, we love talking to fans of the show. For luxurious evergreens in the yard, look no further than Watters.
We have a luscious selection of evergreens that look their best in winter, so you can enjoy a beautiful landscape no matter the cold.
Locally grown for stunning appearance and ability to thrive in cold weather.
Perfect for that touch of luxury your neighbors are sure to be jealous of.
Luxurious evergreens at Watters Garden Center in Prescott and wattersgardencenter.com.
Your one-stop shop for evergreens. Visit us today.
We believe we're the ones that can fill the world with sunshine at Watters Garden Center. If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting wattersgardencenter.com. That's Watters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.